Good morning, God bless. My phone is actually working. Amazing. The camera keeps dying on it. Anywho, so I'm here to talk about the fires. It's very weird. There's a very tiny fire in the North Bay of LA at the moment. I've never seen so much firepower, manpower for a little controlled fire ever. They are forecasting high winds, which is weird because the one app I have there have a warning that the winds are 35 to 45 miles an hour today and tomorrow with gusts of like 65, 75. Yet when you go and look on the other section of like the same app, it's showing like 16 to 17 mile an hour winds. The manpower of this fire only got to 45 acres about. It's very odd, and they are enforcing I've never heard of it before, a red zone parking where they're not allowing parking in certain areas and towing cars immediately if you do park in certain areas. The little fire that was here, it's a very odd area of LA. It's very residential and rural at the same time. Just the amount of manpower, it's just, and like I said, it only grew to, like, the last I heard was 45 acres, and even on the day it was smoking. I mean, you could see it further down in the bay, but when you came closer you couldn't see it or smell it whatsoever. They've closed off certain lanes. They had evacuation. Even after they lifted the evacuation, they're doing this thing where you have to show your ID to prove that a residence is in the area, but they were not only did you have to prove that you had a house in the area, but they were doing police escorts. And it's very odd because it's on a road that is dead end. It's on a dead end road. So while you're giving police escorts on a road that you've narrowed to one lane and then are escorting them, and it's under like very high surveillance. I was in the area yesterday and it was sucked because you're like coming on this curve and they just had like this lane just shut down with absolutely no warning whatsoever, which is extremely dangerous when you have like, you're coming around the corner and all of a sudden you have cars on both sides of you and all of a sudden your lane is shut down with no warning. It was scary. But the manpower, this morning I actually was curious on what was happening. The manpower they have just standing by is alarming. I know, like, the fire world has been part of my life. I know people in that field. I have lived in fire zones. I've definitely spent quite a lot of time in LA. I have never, ever seen this much manpower. And for what? It's very odd. And it's even, I have one of my friends who really enjoys walking, and he's even where they have this station set up, he's trying to avoid it as best he can, but I mean, you can only do so much. There's not a lot of alternative ways to go, but he's doing his best to avoid it. And even that, he told me he was sought out by like a spotter. He's like, it was very odd. The guy came up like, oh, what's going on? Like, acting like clueless. And then he said a few very odd things. So it's like, oh, you're not clueless. You're not some visitor that doesn't know what's going on. You're just a mole checking out what people are saying and thinking of this excessive. And when I say excessive, I mean the first day I saw 12 cops just in one lot, and then there's several other, and then they really started piling on. This morning it was crazy, the amount of not only engines but like the super duper out west they have like these mega trucks for fire. And even on one of the updates I read, sort of like the go-to girl on this, because I know the one day, the one guy's like, I've talked to 3 people, no one knows what's going on. What do you know? I'm like, I know what's going on. There's updates. I read them to you. But it was very odd for this very small fire. I mean, you're talking at max, it's 45 acres. They had 11 agencies that they publicly said they were working with including a homeless agency, which they have been very hostile to homeless in this region. So why you're bringing in a homeless agency, especially it's an area where very few people will go, especially to live in the woods, because it is extreme. You have to really be fit and solid on your feet, man. Anyways, it's very odd. So it's just sort of alarming with all the stuff they are doing in Cali. And to see this much manpower, it's very, very odd. Doesn't make you feel safe. I know they're always like, really? Hi, we're the government. We're here to help you. We're going to make you safe. Oh, we're doing this for your safety. I have to say, I never feel safe when I see the government. Reagan was right, man. Those are the most dangerous words, and you can hear a government agent coming to you and saying that he's here to help you. And especially in the North Bay, they have gotten very aggressive. I've seen some very alarming things, even in just this past year has been bad. The last couple months have been even worse. The aggression, it's sad when you don't feel safe in your own nation. Anyways, weird things happening in LA here. So Lord have mercy on us. God bless you all. Bye-bye.